The punishment that is given to the perpetrator, so we have the birth certificate by ATM use, so they look at the arrangement of the bonds.
Broadcast on Kenyan radio, the lyrics of the song Leave Me Alone tell the story of an 18-year-old girl, pregnant with her second child, who's unable to leave her violent husband because she doesn't have enough money to live on her own. The same message accompanies the work of several Kenyan photographers on show in Nairobi. The aim is to raise awareness to sexual abuse and victims' rights, an issue MSF has been addressing for many years in an effort to improve access to care. Almost half of Kenyan women aged between 15 and 49 years have experienced physical or sexual violence.
The last Kenya Demographic and Health Survey shows that more than half of the Kenyans who experience violence never report this violence to anyone. So the first challenge is to find the victims, and the only way to do that is actually to go, one, mobilize, network with all institutions that can come across victims, but then being able to offer quality care to any victims who will come out.
MSF runs 2 clinics assisting victims of sexual violence in Nairobi districts Kibera and Eastlands, where the population is over 3 million.
You have up to 140,000 people living per kilometer square. You have a lot of people who are jobless, you have a lot of alcohol use, drugs abuse. So all those factors and this environment actually is prone to violence, any type of violence actually. It includes as well gender-based violence and also sexual violence.
The violence primarily affects young women, but not exclusively. Men, older people, very young children. Eric is one of the victims.
The only thing I was going through at that moment was a lot of pain. So when I went home, I sat down, I started asking myself, no, I have to seek for medical attention. I have to get checked, you know. Maybe, I don't know what might happen. Maybe later I might get the STIs.
Here in this clinic, MSF provides medical and psychological care to victims of sexual abuse. Teams also offer family planning, vaccination services and psychosocial support. There are other organisations too working with MSF on protecting victims.
If they need legal assistance, we'll send them to IJM. We'll send them to other actors who are doing some legal bids. If it's protection, we'll send them to the children's office. We'll send to some shelters that we know, very few that exist. So we try as much as possible to link these people to these organizations.
In 2015, MSF provided care to over 2,500 victims of sexual abuse. Teams want to use the Don't Excuse Abuse campaign to improve access to information and care, and to play a role in the public debate on an issue that's all too often ignored. On the 6th of December, MSF opened a hospital in Kaira. The only one in the region south of Mosul, this 30-bed medical and surgical facility provides emergency care to over 120,000 people. 5 days after opening, fighting between Islamic State and Iraqi forces resulted in an influx of wounded arriving at the hospital. 37 patients were treated.
There were too many casualties for the emergency room. We had to put patients in a tent at the hospital entrance and assess their condition there.
Gunshot, blast, and so on. So now I will operate at least 3, maybe 4, maybe 5.
MSF teams have been working in Arbil since 2013, providing aid in the surrounding displaced persons camps. They have scaled up their operations to cope with the influx of wounded and displaced. In the past 2 months, 80,000 people have been forced to flee their homes because of the fighting. In October, the United Nations put the number of displaced Chadians at over 115,000 and 7,000 the number of refugees from neighbouring countries. Tens of thousands of people who've survived the violence are hiding here in the middle of the Sahara Desert.
We left Geelong because of Boko Haram. These people kill. They show no mercy. We were like prisoners, and we were threatened with starvation.
Dispersed around the country, often cut off in the desert, these people's living conditions are dire. There's not enough water, food, or medical care. In the district of Bol, for example, there are just 2 doctors for 160,000 people. In Bagasola, Bol, Liwa and Kiskawa, MSF teams run mobile clinics, and in 10 months they've given over 100,000 consultations. It is estimated that 1/3 of all drugs in sub-Saharan Africa are of poor quality. Counterfeit and substandard medicines are a global public health issue. Why? A manufacturer seeking to market a drug must obtain marketing authorization from the concerned National Drug Regulatory Authority. This requires submitting an application with information on the drug's efficacy and safety, as well as the quality of the manufacturing process. If the benefits of the drug prove to outweigh any significant risks, it is granted marketing authorization. But this authorization is only valid in the country where the application was filed. This procedure, however, does not prevent the circulation of poor quality medicines, of which there are 2 equally harmful types. First are counterfeit drugs produced with intent to deceive, wrong dosage, or different active pharmaceutical ingredients which are less effective or ineffective and sometimes even harmful. They are made to resemble as closely as possible the genuine article and are distributed illegally. Criminal organisations are behind these illicit products, and it falls to the police and criminal justice agencies to put a stop to their practices. Secondly, there are substandard drugs, which result from involuntary mistakes or negligence during the manufacturing or distribution process, wrong dosage, defective packaging, deterioration, etc. Industrialised countries have strong healthcare authorities which regulate and closely monitor pharmaceutical product markets. It's estimated that less than 1% of all medicines in these countries are substandard or counterfeit. They can be bought on the internet. But manufacturing countries hold that it's not their responsibility to control drugs intended solely for export. They say it's the responsibility of countries importing them. However, regulatory authorities in many low and middle-income countries don't always have the necessary human, financial or technical resources to monitor the quality of imported medicines, with the result that poor quality drugs circulate freely. This phenomenon extends to all types of drugs, including medications patients' lives depend on, such as antimalarials, vaccines, and anti-cancer treatments. Various avenues are being explored to combat the problem. Exporting countries, for example, should play a role in ensuring the quality of drugs destined for the export market. In importing countries, one solution could be to pool resources with supranational entities. An African Drug Regulatory Authority, for example. And the World Health Organization can also make a contribution through its Pre-Qualification of Medicines program. The purpose of this program is to assess new medicines and provide reliable information to importing countries. However, many commonly used drugs, antibiotics for example, are not included in the program. To extend it to all essential medicines would require significantly more resources than those allocated at present. In the meantime, to combat poor quality medicines, Access to objective and verified information on manufacturers is essential.
One of the many things that impress me about Yemen is how resilient its people are, in spite of the hardship, in spite of the conflict. And nowhere is this more obvious, more apparent than with our Yemeni colleagues. I mean, they are often going through personal hell because of the situation, and yet they keep coming to work, they cope, they manage, you know, they are there every day doing their job. I'm thinking about one in particular. He hasn't had any news about his brother for over a year now. It's not clear what happened to him. His brother just disappeared one day. It's not clear who took him and why. And yet this guy, this colleague, he keeps coming to work every day, and he's one of the most dedicated, one of the most motivated, one of the best colleagues I've ever had at MSF, national or international. And I mean, it's just unbelievable to me.